Welcome back, everybody. This is Modern Randy. I am Randy, and today we're talking about the Bant Tempo deck that I took to an RCQ to get second place with, unfortunately losing in the finals. But before we get on with this deck and kind of explain why I took it and what the reasonings were behind the choices I've played, if you like what I'm doing, you like what you're seeing, go ahead and leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, it really helps me out, and let me know what you guys are taking to your RCQs, what you're seeing. Love to hear from you. With that out of the way, let's get down to it. This is the Bant Tempo deck that's been running around. Notably, this was usually Simic beforehand. It's been Sultai as well. So you've seen a black splash, a white splash, a traditional blue-green build of it. So this is the one that I took to my RCQ that I had just last weekend. I was able to get second place, lost in the finals, unfortunately. You know, there are the breaks sometimes, it happens. But that being said, I did play against a bunch of different decks. I played against the black-green Golgari deck. I played against that twice. I played against two different Demeter decks. I played against the Rug Flood Collar deck that was running around. Is only a 5-round tournament with a cut to top 4. I also played again against against green black again, and then losing, unfortunately, in the finals to the Rug Flood Collar deck, unfortunately. But that being said, the deck I think is really well positioned. It does a lot of things that you really like for a deck. So kind of going over the deck here real quick in case you guys haven't seen this deck or anything like that. So going over it, I was running 2 Seachrome Coast, 4 Botanical Sanctum, thank you, 2 of the Flood Farm Verge, that was like my 4 cards for the White Splash, along with 1 Plains, 2 Islands, a Forest, 3 Yavimaya Coast, and a Heads Mage, and then also a Malicious Archive. You should be running 2 Heads Mages. I didn't have a second Heads Mage on me, so I had to substitute real quick with another Surveil Land. I didn't come out too much because it still tapped for blue. That's what I really cared about, was tapping for blue more than green. But if you're only running 17 lands, you are a very land-light deck as a whole. But that's because you're trying to just kind of power through your deck as a whole. So our turn 1 plays are hopefully going to be either like Sleight of Hand, Analyze Pollen if we have to go get a land, or Bushwhack to go get a land, or Storm Chaser's Talent. Storm Chaser's Talent is a hell of a card. I cannot express how powerful this card feels. If you have yet to cast this card in Standard, do yourself a favor, play a deck that's playing these. It is amazing. It is probably one of the best cards I've ever casted. Being able to rebuy stuff is amazing too. Like being able to rebuy, like, this town ain't big enough. Thank you. To rebuy this town ain't big enough, so then you can bounce your Storm Chaser's Talent, bounce an opponent's thing, recast Storm Chaser's Talent, being able to rebuy this again. Just, you can do a lot of shenanigans with Storm Chaser's Talent. I cannot praise how good this card is enough. That being said, the whole purpose of this deck essentially is to lower the cast cost of Eddy Merc Crab and the Terror to essentially 1 or 2 blue spells. So, you know, we need to get Enchanted Sorceries into our graveyard, and the best way we had to do that is Seed of Hope. For 1 mana, you get to mill 2 cards and put a permanent card from among those milled cards into your hand. You gain 2 life. So notably, Siege of Hope can grab you up the Beanstalk, it can grab you Sheltered by Ghost, it can grab you Storm Chaser Talent, and it can grab you your creatures as well as another land, because they are permanents. And then we also are playing Cash Grab. So for 1 in the green, you get to mill 4 cards, put a permanent card this way, and permanent card from among the cards milled this way into your hand, and then if you have a squirrel, it does some stuff. It doesn't matter, we don't have squirrels, we don't care about that line of text. So once again, it lets us, you know, dig deep to find up the Beanstalk, our creatures, our Storm Chasers, or land. So this is our big way of getting the cards into the graveyard for that. And then we have, you know, Sleight of Hand is going to put an instant sorcery into the graveyard, things like that. Unsummons is a way to protect ourselves, along with this town ain't big enough to bounce spells. And we're playing 2 Sheltered by Ghost, as this is like our White Splash in the main. This gives us an edge against those pesky red aggressive decks. So I built this deck, or I didn't build this deck. I definitely copied it and made some changes of my own with the land base, things like that, based on cards I had, ways I wanted to play it, essentially. So, but Sheltered by Ghost is the reason why I played this deck, or why I played the Bant version of this deck, and it was for the aggro matchup. I expected to see a lot more red aggressive decks than I did, obviously, because I didn't play against any of them in my RCQ. That being said, the deck still did well, still performed well, so I can't be too upset. But Sheltered by Ghost is just an amazing card as a whole. Being able to turn your Terror into a Ward 4, essentially, is amazing. It's almost impossible for almost any deck to kill. That's great. As well as, you know, being able to eat your opponents of problematic permanents that aren't lands, and then also you have that life gain swing is just huge. So, like I said, I was playing this deck because I thought there was going to be more red aggressive decks. I'm probably still going to register this deck again. I really like this deck as a whole. I had a lot of fun with it. That being said, you have the Up the Beanstalks here is like your main card advantage, turning all your permanent, like all your creatures into, 5/5 Ward 2 for 1 mana and draw a card is amazing. Same thing with the Eddie Murky work. Being able to tap down your opponent's creatures. This card is amazing offensively and defensively. It just does so much work, and it just you can just push through damage so easily with it. But being said, I think this deck is really well positioned moving forward against the green-black decks. They struggle against this deck. They don't have a good answer for Tolarian Terror at all, so that's a huge thing. Storm Chaser's Talent is a big problematic card because it just keeps coming back. Like, you keep making this 1/1 red-blue otter token really annoying to deal with, so that's super fun to have. Eddie Merc being able to play at the end of turn and tapping your opponent's creatures down is huge. There was a game that I had against the greenback deck where we kind of had to hit this board stall. And I got to a point where I was able to keep bouncing my crab and tapping down enough creatures to where their attacks couldn't matter, to where they died to their own demon trigger. So that he removed the last counter and lost the game because of that. This deck is just very tempo based. It's very just you get to play to the board a lot. You get to interact with the opponent a lot, and you get to do things to stop your opponent and do wacky things like Bushwhack being both a spell to go get a land and also being able to fight the other creatures is huge. This deck is just very well rounded. I can't really sing enough hope and praise for this deck as a whole, and it's just something I really enjoyed playing and I really enjoyed taking to a tournament. It's a deck that I've kind of been noticing a little bit of. I've done a little bit of practice with it. I hadn't done too much of practice with it, but to take it to an RC and kind of get second place, this felt really strong. Now you do live or die essentially by like your Cast Grabs and your Seed of Hope's mills, so there is some like give and take to this deck. Graveyard Hate's annoying, but you can play through it, and that was the other reason why I kind of built the Bant version of this deck. Moving on to the sideboard here. So this sideboard was obviously customized, built to what I expected to see being played, or what I expected to have happen at the tournament, essentially. So we had 2 more Sheltered by Ghosts in the sideboard here, again for those red aggressive matchups. Same thing with 2 Authority of Councils. I put those into my sideboard just for the red aggressive matchups. Moving forward, I think I would just cut the Authority of Councils. I don't think it's really needed. Obviously, I didn't play against any red aggressive deck, so the more and more I played with this deck and have thought about it and done a lot of theory crafting stuff, Authority of Councils, this isn't something I want to be on. 3 Monstery Mentor was actually really good. They came in against like the Demeanor matchups and things like that, where they're going to be removing a lot of your creatures. You can expect a lot of Graveyard Hate. This card is just a problematic card to deal with as a whole, and especially if your opponent's not sure what you're bringing in out of your sideboard as a whole. So like a lot of decks don't think that we're going to bring in additional creatures from our sideboard, so they're going to be cutting a lot of like their bad removal spells, right? They're going to be cutting their cut downs, they're going to be cutting their anoints and things like that. So that makes Monster Mentor stock just go way up, and it's an army in a can. You're already playing a bunch of cheap spells, so being able to cast Monster Mentor and then just play 1 or 2 spells, get a couple creatures, even if they kill Monster Mentor, now we have 2 more prowess creatures to go along with our Storm Chaser Challenge token we're making. We're just getting all these prowess triggers. We're just doing a lot of beatdown things. Also, Storm Chaser Talent is, I can't praise enough of this too. There was a lot of games where I dropped Storm Chaser Talent on turn 1 and then played like another one on turn 2 and then just rode like 2 1/1s to almost victory by themselves before I started deploying any more threats. They just do a lot of work. They demand an answer. I had negates in here for like the board wipe spells and any like the big problematic spells we were looking to play against. I was worried about Caretaker's Talent as a deck. That deck running around, some of the board wipes that can come out of the green black decks and things like that, because it deals with your problematic creatures pretty good. Same thing with Deadly Cover Up was in one I was worried about. I wanted to counter that type of spell. We had 1 Paw Patch formation and 1 Pick Your Poison. I think if I was moving forward, I'm probably just going to play 2 Paw Patch formations, probably go up to a 3rd with cutting this Authority of Councils. Excuse me, but it was here for Enchantment Hate, Artifact Hate, being able to kill flyers, things like that. Being able to kill ghost vacuums and things like that. Temporary Lockdown and Split Up was because I was worried about the Jeskai Convoke decks. I know that those have been popping up more and more. I wasn't sure what this meta was going to be that I was walking into, so I was kind of building this deck for a blind meta. So I was worried about Jeskai Convoke because that's a huge deck, and obviously they go a lot wider, a lot faster than I can go. So I need to have some answers there. So moving forward, I think I would change this temporary lockdown to a second split up just for that advantage. Really didn't board either one of these in. Just didn't come up. So not too big of a problem. Like I said, we were building a deck for a wide open format. We weren't sure what we were going to be seeing. And then 2 Ghost Vacuums there for excuse me, there for the other graveyard strategy decks, decks like mine, Reanimator, again, wide open field. We weren't sure what we were going to see. I still keep the 2 Ghost Vacuums. They came in a little bit against the Rug Flood Color deck. It came in against and things like that. So nothing too crazy there as a whole. But the sideboard was kind of built for that in mind. With that being said, though, the deck performed extremely well. I only lost one matchup that I lost to was the Rug Flood Color deck. Ironically, I lost to that in like round 3 and then in the finals. So that did kind of stink a little bit, losing to that twice. But I think the deck is really well formatted for this metagame. I think it does well against most things that are out there. It is a little bit tricky because I think it's a little worse against Dimir with how I'm built it so far. I think that you need to figure out a little bit better answer to Dimir as a whole. And then with them playing more of the Fey Bloom spell, tapping down your creatures, that's a little bit more challenging to deal with. But if you can keep them off balance or keep them slowed down just a little bit, I think the deck does a lot better. I could see moving the Shelter to the Ghost to the sideboard maybe and playing no white in the main. But I'm not 100% sold on that idea yet either. But this is something I'll be taking to another RCQ here in just a few days. So I'll let you guys know how it's doing. But if you're looking for something fun, you're looking for something relatively cheap, minus Caretaker or Storm Chaser's talent, since they're now like I think up to $10 a piece. This deck is super fun to play. It's super good. Like Terror, it turns out Tolarian Terror is still a hard card for most cards to deal with, and if you're dropping this, on as early as like turn 3, it's just really challenging to deal with. Most of the time it requires 4 mana to deal with. It throws your opponent off their game plan. It's a 5/5. It blocks really well. It attacks really well. Just a super fun deck to play. I implore you to take this. If you've been looking for something fun, you haven't been having fun in Standard, this is something you will more likely enjoy. It's just super fun to play. And I will catch you guys next time with another deck tech or another meta breakdown. And I hope you guys are having fun out there.